Hi everyone and welcome to Module 2. In Module 2 we're going to be looking at elasticity. Elasticity is going to be focusing on how consumers respond to price changes. You'll know it's a very important concept because all of us deal with elasticity when we go make a purchase. And when we make a purchase we have to decide whether we buy the good or do we not buy the good. Now, elasticity, there's two types of elasticity. Elasticity is looking at consumers' responsiveness to price changes. An elastic good is a good when there's a price change, there's a large change in quantity demanded. An inelastic good is when there's a price change, there's a small change in quantity demanded. So an example of an inelastic good would be gasoline, as when there's a change in the price of gasoline, consumers will continue to buy it. Whereas with elastic goods, when there's a change in the price of gasoline, consumers, I shouldn't say gasoline, I should say like a luxury item, consumers are not as adapt to want to buy that product because there's other options for them. Another concept we look for this week is public goods. And public goods are goods that are supplied by the government. You'll notice that public goods are goods that are non-rival and non-excludable. And what that means when they're non-rival and non-excludable, that means that we do not compete to consume a good or service, and also a store cannot exclude anyone from consuming a good or service. That's the non-excludable, non-rival component. With public goods, governments have to supply public goods. And when governments have to supply public goods, it's a type of market failure. Because firms are not able to sell public goods because individuals would not pay for what they consume. Now let's look at the assignment that we're going to have for this week. In the first assignment, we're going to be looking at consumer surplus. Consumer surplus is looking at the concept of if I go to, let's say, Starbucks, and I am very thirsty and I'm really looking forward to having some coffee, and I think in my mind, you know what, I'm willing to pay $4 for a cup of coffee. However, after I go pay for coffee, after I pay for coffee, I only have to pay $2. So coffee costs $4. And I'm willing to pay $4, but the coffee only costs $2. When we look at that concept, that's the consumer surplus. What am I willing to pay minus what I have to pay? Every consumer deals with a consumer surplus. And when consumer surplus is maximized, consumers are more willing to buy a product. Now, in this question, you're going to be looking at a tax. And when we look at taxes, you're going to realize that taxes influences decisions and influences prices that are being charged. Now, what would happen if there's a tax, or what are the consequences of tax on both consumption and production? So when there's a tax, that's going to influence both production, because we can't produce as much because we have to pay more towards the tax. And also it's going to influence consumption. We're not going to buy as much because the price of the good is higher. Now let's review the components of how you're being graded. Discussion participation. If you have your first post by Saturday, and if you have 2 peer responses that are at least 1 paragraph in length, you'll earn 16 points. To earn these 8 points, are you ensuring that you're not using text lingo? Do you have proper grammar, spelling, capitalization? You'll earn the full 8 points. Now with the initial post, I'm grading the quality of your post, and I'm also grading your in-text citation and reference in APA formatting. So make sure to have that with regard to your initial post. If you have those components, you will do fine. And if you need me to review any of your work, please let me know, as I would be more than willing to as well. But please send it through email to me. Now, for assignment 2, you're going to be looking at this marketing campaign. And you're going to be submitting one document. Now, when you submit this one document, you're going to submit just a one-word document, and you're going to copy and paste your Excel document into your work. So, describe the ultimate goal. And your ultimate goal for this assignment is you're in charge of designing a product campaign for new shampoo. What is your ultimate goal for this campaign? I recommend putting subheadings as well, but APA formatting is required in your work. In your second part of the question, how are you going to achieve this goal? What are your methods that you're going to utilize? In the third part of the question, identify the components of the marketing. And then the fourth part, focus on the 3 terms. Utility, which is satisfaction. Elasticity is looking at how consumers respond to price changes. And demand is looking at buyers. So make sure to focus on those components and use subheadings in your work. For the second part, which you should create in an Excel file, but you will copy into your Word document. You will not submit 2 documents. That's the key. You're going to just prepare a graph with just a basic X. And you don't have to make up prices. All I'm looking for is the basic supply and demand graph. And what you're going to do is looking at a change in consumer utility. How will that affect this new demand? What's going to happen is demand's going to increase, so you're going to show a new shift of the demand curve going to the right of the original demand curve. And all you need to do is just copy and paste that graph into your work. And how you're being graded is, did you discuss the components of this advertising campaign? Did you use the economic terms that we focus on this week? Did you show the shift of the demand curve in your graph? Did you show the shift of utility and elasticity? And did you use APA formatting? If you can focus on those components, you will do well. And if you want me to pre-grade any of your work, please let me know, as I look forward to your effort this week.